Chapter 1. Xiaoguo, I'm sorry. I know the breakup was a big blow to you, but I'm really sorry. Leng Ziyue pursed his lips and looked guilty. You're a good girl. I don't want to hurt you. I thought you were good enough to make me forget her, but I realized I couldn't until the day she came back. Chi agreed to be with me. Xiaoguo, I really don't want to miss her. The girl in front of him was wearing a simple dress. Her hands were holding the cup of milk tea tightly. Her head was lowered, and her expression couldn't be seen. The girl's thin body trembled, as if she was crying for this result. Leng Ziyue felt guilty, but he had to break up with her. He loved Lu Qi, not Tang Guo. It had been quiet for too long. He couldn't stand the girl not saying a word. His heart would soften when he thought of her chattering and smiling brightly. He was afraid that his heart would soften, so he took out the check in a panic, signed his name, and carefully moved the check to Tang Guo's hand. Xiaoguo, fill it out yourself. This is my compensation to you, Leng Ziyue said seriously. I hope you can be happy without me. The girl finally looked up. Her face was beautiful and clean. He thought that her face was covered in tears, but he didn't expect her to just look at him calmly. Her lips were curved as if she was smiling. Was he seeing things? Leng Ziyue was very nervous. He was afraid that she would do something extreme. Xiaoguo, I'm sorry. Leng Ziyue kept apologizing. What else do you need? I'll do it if I can. Really, huh? The girl's smile was strange. She even laughed and said in a cold voice, Can you really do anything? Leng Ziyue. Was Xiaoguo still unwilling to give up and wanted to use this method to win him back? Sorry, he wouldn't agree. Don't you want to be a singer? I'll get someone to help you. I hope you can be happier and forget about this. She was still laughing, and her laughter attracted the attention of everyone in the milk tea shop. She didn't care, but Leng Ziyue felt that something was wrong. He saw her suddenly stop smiling and stare at him. The more Leng Zi believed that Tang Guo was unable to accept the breakup, the more he felt guilty. Tang Guo picked up the cup of milk tea and slowly took a sip. Her slender fingers picked up the blank check and blew on it. Her pink lips parted slightly, and her beautiful eyes looked up. Leng Ziyue's heart skipped a beat. Just let me fill it in. Yes. Leng Zi quickly replied. Oh, the corners of her lips curled up in a devilish arc, making Leng Ziyue feel a little dizzy. His heart thumped twice. Xiaoguo was really attractive when she smiled like this. She looked up and stretched out her fair hand. Do you have a pen? Yes, I'll bring it to you. Leng Ziyue quickly took out a pen and respectfully held it in front of Tang Guo with both hands. He was afraid that she would go back on her words and not sign it, so he even opened the pen cap in a gentlemanly manner before handing it to her. Seeing that Tang Guo was about to fill in the numbers, a crazy voice sounded in her mind. Host, calm down. Your persona has collapsed. This is a cannon fodder supporting female lead. According to your persona, you should throw the check in Leng Ziyue's face and say that you're not such a person with an aggrieved face, then run out crying. You haven't turned evil yet. You turned evil when you saw Lu Qi and Leng Ziyue being lovey-dovey. You couldn't stand it and wanted to frame Lu Qi, but they saw through you. Finally, you walked the pitiful path of cannon fodder, waiting to receive your lunchbox. Chapter 2. Tang Guo returned the pen to Leng Ziyue. She picked up the check and blew on it as if she wanted to dry the ink. Leng Ziyue heaved a sigh of relief. He felt much better that Tang Guo accepted his gift. Although Xiaoguo seemed a little abnormal today, when he thought about what he had done, he could only blame it on himself for hurting Xiaoguo too much. He had treated Xiaoguo as Lu Qi's substitute and had indeed hurt her. Xiaoguo, I'm sorry. If you need any help in the future, just call me. Tang Guo placed the check on the table and took a sip of milk tea before she said, Anytime? Yes. Then, when you and your girlfriend have sex, can I do it too? Leng Ziyue was speechless. Was Xiaoguo mad? Obviously, Tang Guo did not dwell on this issue. She waved the check in her hand and said, I can cash it out anytime? Yes. As for what Tang Guo had said earlier, Leng Ziyue could only blame it on Tang Guo being heartbroken. He could forgive her for saying that. Just as he finished answering, Lung Ziyue suddenly glanced at the amount on the check and was stunned. Xiao Guo, how much did you fill in? Lung Ziyue asked nervously. According to his understanding of Tang Guo, even if she was angry, she would only ask for a few million yuan at most. If he was not mistaken, the amount on the check was 50 million yuan, right? He asked uncertainly, 50 million yuan? Yes. Tang Guo said matter-of-factly, didn't you ask me to fill it out and compensate me? Why, do you think it's too much? Tang Guo frowned. You can't bear to part with it. No, I can't bear to part with it. Lung Ziyue was a little embarrassed. 50 million yuan is a large amount. If you want to cash it out, it might not be that much. You can cash it out at about 30 million yuan. Is that so? Tang Guo's brows relaxed. I thought you were reluctant. Since you're not reluctant, I'm relieved. Then give me a check for 30 million and an IOU for 20 million. Lung Ziyue. Xiao Guo, has she really gone crazy? He must have hurt her too much. It was said that once a woman lost love, she would fall madly in love with money. He couldn't give her love, so he could only compensate her with money. Although 50 million was too much, Lung Ziyue immediately did as Tang Guo said. As long as Xiao Guo calmed down, everything would be fine. He really felt sorry for this innocent girl. Lung Ziyue was very fast. He filled out the check and IOU and handed it to Tang Guo. Tang Guo took it and put it in her purse. After taking one last sip of milk tea, she stood up and said, I'm leaving. Remember to pay the bill when you're done. Host, you've really gone crazy. Have you forgotten the previous worlds that you've destroyed? Do you want to repeat the same mistakes? Host, you've changed. You used to be very obedient and would complete one cannon fodder mission after another according to the plot. Host, you've changed. I don't recognize you anymore. As a competent system, I have to warn you. You'd better complete the missions properly. Otherwise, you'll be erased one day. Tang Guo walked out of the milk tea shop, ignoring the chaotic voices in her head. She waved her hand and hailed a car. She opened the door, sat down, and closed the door in one go. Driver, go to the nearest bank. Host, what are you doing? Calm down. Don't mess around. I beg you. Chapter 3. Host, what you're doing is wrong. You're a supporting female character, a cannon fodder supporting female character. What you should be doing now is locking yourself up at home because you're heartbroken. You should be silently observing Lung Ziyue. When you see Lung Ziyue and Lu Qi being lovey-dovey, you'll be so angry that you'll cause some trouble. You'll be exposed every time and you'll be the unlucky one. Then, you'll become braver and continue to court death until you receive your bento box lunch. Seeing Tang Guo deposit 30 million into her bank account, the system really wanted to come out and strangle her. Tang Guo glanced at the message. The 30 million transfer was mentioned, and the corner of her mouth curved up slightly. That smug look on his face made the system so angry that it was about to die. The bank lobby manager respectfully and pleasantly sent Tang Guo out of the bank lobby. Before he left, he even handed Tang Guo a business card. Tang Guo casually stuffed the card into her bag and waved her hand to hail a car. When she opened the door, her gaze fell on a certain spot opposite her. Miss, are you taking a ride? The driver was obviously impatient. He stuck his head out and happened to meet Tang Guo's gaze. His breath suddenly stopped. It wasn't that the woman in front of him was very beautiful, but that her smile was too devilish. The driver asked carefully, Miss, are you still taking a ride? No. Tang Guo chuckled and closed the door. Her gaze swept across the city. To be precise, her gaze followed the tall figure walking into the city. She narrowed her eyes and the corner of her mouth curled up. Host, what are you up to now? I'm warning you, you'd better follow the script. Also, you'd better not crash the world again, otherwise, I'll be obliterated one day. You're so long-winded. Are you done yet? If you keep talking nonsense, do you believe that I'll immediately cross the road and go straight to the next world? System, you're wronged. Host, we're partners. You shouldn't abuse your teammate like this. Tang Guo didn't pay attention to the messy voice in her mind anymore. The sound of her high heels echoed. She walked in the direction of Ge City. At this moment, Tang Guo was a combination of pure and seductive. In the eyes of men, she was completely a little vixen. As soon as she walked into the city, countless eyes fell on her. Tang Guo's destination was the stage where the musicians were singing. When the others saw where she was going, they hurriedly made way for her. When Tang Guo came to the stage, the musicians couldn't help but stop singing. The musician was a sunny boy. His face turned red when he saw Tang Guo's smile. "Miss, what song do you want to listen to?" The musician hurriedly placed his hands on the guitar. If he hadn't tried his best to control himself, he would have lost control of his voice. Tang Guo smiled. "I suddenly feel like singing. Is that okay?" "Yes, of course." The musician nodded quickly and made way for Tang Guo. He also made a request. Can I accompany Miss?" Tang Guo glanced at the musician and agreed. A beautiful and intoxicating voice resounded throughout the dance floor. Everyone stopped what they were doing and looked at the person who was singing. The woman in the white dress had a beautiful and pure face, but the moment she raised her eyes, everyone would be immersed in those charming eyes. Those eyes seemed to have a magical power that could lead them into the world of her singing. Chapter 4. When the people in Ge City were intoxicated by Tang Guo's singing, the song stopped abruptly and everyone woke up from their dreams. They were still thinking about the song just now, but Tang Guo only sang half of it. She had not sung the best part yet. They all looked at the woman on the stage with accusatory eyes. "Miss." The musicians had to stop too. They were very confused. Tang Guo put down the microphone and coughed softly. "My throat is a little uncomfortable, so I won't sing the rest." "Thank you." The musicians looked at Tang Guo eagerly, hoping that she could finish the rest of the song. However, Tang Guo had already walked off the stage. By the time the others remembered to look for her, she was long gone. The song stopped abruptly, which made the man on the railing frown. A fragrant wind drifted over, and he had to open his eyes. He stared at the beautiful woman holding a wine glass in front of him. The woman looked at him hesitantly. "Mr. Leng, I haven't finished the song I sang just now. Do you want to go in and continue? If Mr. Leng likes to listen outside, I'll sing outside." The woman looked obedient and handed the wine glass to the man. "I've brought your wine glass for you." The man's sharp eyes stared at the woman until the woman's back was drenched in sweat, her legs were weak, and she was about to lose her balance. Then, his thin lips lifted into a cold smile. The man took the wine glass and squeezed it lightly. The wine glass broke into pieces, and the dark red liquid flowed down his palm. The woman was so scared that she collapsed to the ground. Her face turned pale instantly. "Mr. Leng," the cold and sharp shards touched her chin. The sharp pain in her neck made the woman tremble and unable to say a word. Just when the woman thought that the man would cut her throat, the shards suddenly left her body. "You should thank the woman who sang just now. I don't want to see blood now." The man took out a handkerchief to wipe the dark red liquid on his palm and turned to leave. The woman burst into tears. She had offended this man and her future was gone. She regretted that she had been possessed and drugged him. The man returned to the private room, stretched his arms and leaned against the sofa. With a cigarette in his mouth, he asked lazily, "Have you found the woman who sang before?" "Mr. Leng, the surveillance shows that she has left Ge City." The manager broke out in a cold sweat. "She left as soon as she left the stage. If I knew that Mr. Leng would look for her, I would have asked someone to keep her here. I've already sent someone to look for her." The man waved his hand. "No need. My men will find her." Then, the man stood up, and the manager quickly stood up straight. "Mr. Leng, are you leaving now?" The man had already walked out of the private room, and only then did he wipe his cold sweat with fear. These women were really worrisome. They even dared to drug this person. Didn't they know who this person was? It really scared him to death. Fortunately, another woman came out and attracted the firepower. "Host, what are you planning?" Tang Guo was wearing a SpongeBob SquarePants nightgown, curled up on the sofa and watching TV. She was actually a little disgusted by this SpongeBob SquarePants nightgown. Unfortunately, other than the SpongeBob SquarePants nightgowns, The only other nightgowns she wore were SpongeBob SquarePants. Host, look at this talent show. Are you planning to follow the original owner's plot? The system burst into tears. Host, have you finally thought it through and decided to be a serious cannon fodder? Tangua spat out the grape skin and wiped the corners of her mouth and hands with a napkin. I want to be a singer. I want to sing. Host, I love you. You're finally not breaking down. You're finally back to normal. The system cried tears of joy. Chapter 5. Who are you? Tangua looked through the peephole and saw 3 tall men. At first glance, she could tell they weren't good people. Are you here to kidnap me? Hurry up and leave, or I'll call the police. System. The host seemed to be a little crazy. Miss, President Lung wants to see you. We won't hurt you at all. Don't call the police, we're not bad people. Tangua said, I don't believe you. Bad people don't carve words on their faces. You 3 big men must have bad intentions to stop at the door of a single woman. I'm so beautiful, you must want to do something to me. The 3 bodyguards looked at each other and finally took out their phones to call their boss. Sir, Miss Tang doesn't believe us. Do you want to use other methods? What did she say? The bodyguard repeated what he had just said, and the man laughed. Split the door and bring her here. She won't resist. The bodyguards, why? Host, 3 big men are splitting your door. Tangua, go ahead, someone will pay for it. Host, you should change into another set of clothes. If they do something to you later, you can still resist for a bit. Note, you're a chaste supporting female lead, so you have to keep your chastity for the male lead. However, in such a situation where you can't resist, you can only blame it on being a cannon fodder. Serves you right for being unlucky. Idiot, who the hell wrote you? Why are you so stupid? Tangua ridiculed without holding back. System, Tangua was brought into a very luxurious villa, and the man sat on the sofa. She was wearing SpongeBob SquarePants pajamas and standing in the living room. The man raised his head slightly, holding a cigarette in his hand. After taking a puff, he put out the cigarette and threw it into the ashtray. Sit. Tangua walked to the sofa and sat down. She supported her chin with both hands and narrowed her eyes, sizing up the man in front of her. The corners of her lips curved into an uncontrollable smile. Do you want to be Mrs. Lung, or do you want fame and money? The man's sharp eyes stared at Tangua. His gaze paused on the SpongeBob SquarePants picture in front of her and quickly moved away. He lowered his head and sneered. The corners of his mouth were a little cruel. If it's the former, I'll throw you out to feed the sharks. Tangua rested her chin on her hand and clicked her tongue. He's actually a CEO and a hidden dark boss. Lung Rui frowned, not quite understanding the meaning of this sentence. Have you prepared a room for me? Lung Rui smiled at Tangua and said in a beautiful voice, no. Tangua sat down casually beside Lung Rui and raised her eyebrows. Let's discuss the compensation now. You will stay here from now on. How long you can stay will depend on your ability. When you leave this place, you will get the reward you want. Lung Rui controlled the right to speak and did not follow Tangua's train of thought. Now is the time for you to state your conditions. Tangua leaned back. Her aura was completely different from before. She yawned. I want to be a singer. You have to support me. I want to be popular. Not only am I popular in the country, but I want to be popular abroad and worldwide. That's it. Chapter 6. Lung Rui was silent for a while. He did not comment on whether Tangua's request was too much or not. Tangua was also very patient. She drank the iced milk tea she asked for and was so comfortable that she almost fell asleep. Lung Rui raised his head and glanced at the woman sitting next to him who was about to fall asleep. He was very interested in her. It should be said that he was very fascinated by her singing. Her singing could eliminate all impetuousness and violence and make him feel peaceful. I agree to your conditions, but... Lung Rui's words woke Tangua up. As long as you have the ability to live in this villa, I can help you fulfill all your wishes. Tangua was energized. All my requests. Except being Mrs. Lung. Lung Rui quickly said this. This woman dared to make any request. He did not need Mrs. Lung's existence. Tang Guo laughed. Her beautiful face leaned close to Lung Rui and she blew into his ear. Then sleeping with you doesn't count as being Mrs. Lung, right? A fragrant wind blew over. Lung Rui reached out and pushed the woman's face away. Her delicate skin made him pause for a moment before he retracted his hand. Now it's my turn to make a request. Lung Rui changed his posture and leaned against the sofa. I want to hear you sing. When I want to hear you sing, you have to sing for me anytime and anywhere. Before I go to sleep, I want to listen to your voice. I'm going to take a shower first. You can think about what song you're going to sing to make me fall asleep quickly later. Lung Rui left Tang Guo and went to the bathroom. Tang Guo was still curled up on the sofa. She was humming an unknown tune. From the light tone of the tune, it was obvious that she was in a good mood. Host, may I ask weakly, why did you provoke this big pervert? Everything that happened today was your design, right? Host, you really broke down. You actually found a sugar daddy to achieve your goal. Lung Rui quickly finished showering and came in front of Tang Guo. Go to my room. From now on, the place where you live will be my room. I've already asked someone to prepare your bed. Lung Rui lay down on the bed. There was a chair beside the bed. In the corner, there was another smaller bed. There was a loudspeaker at the head of the bed. Tang Guo touched the loudspeaker and saw a red button at the head of Lung Rui's bed. With great interest, he pressed the red button. Immediately, the speaker vibrated crazily. If someone was sleeping on the bed at this time, they would definitely be awakened by the vibration. Tang Guo retracted her hand and sat on the chair, propping up her chin. Sugar daddy, what song do you want to listen to? Lung Rui closed his eyes and didn't say anything. Tang Guo didn't ask anymore. She sang a song with a soothing tune. Lung Rui was not familiar with the lyrics. He was sure that he had heard thousands of songs, but this was the only one he had never heard. A soft and gentle tune sounded in his ears, calming Lung Rui's heart. He quickly fell asleep and did not wake up in the middle. In the morning, when Tang Guo was having breakfast, Lung Rui threw a contract to her. Sign your name. From today onwards, you are a singer under Nebula Music. Lung Rui said as he ate breakfast, I've already chosen a manager. I'll take you to Nebula tomorrow. Tang Guo smiled. As expected of a sugar daddy. Amazing. Tang Guo buried her head and flipped through the contract. Lung Rui did not disturb her. After a while, he said, the song last night was not bad. Chapter 7. Lung Ziyue talked to Lung Rui and even asked the servant to prepare breakfast for him. He was not surprised to see a woman in pajamas at the dining table. His father liked to bring women home, but usually, these women would disappear from the villa in less than 3 days. He remembered that the longest one stayed in the villa was half a month. Why are you back today? Lung Rui's voice made Lung Ziyue sit like an obedient child. He was still a little afraid of Lung Rui. Ever since he adopted him, Lung Rui had a vasectomy and made him unable to have any children. Wasn't it scary to be so cruel to yourself? In addition, Lung Rui often brought women back to the villa. Lung Ziyue guessed that his father did not want those women to have a chance to get pregnant because of his flirtation. In the end, Lung Ziyue's style of doing things was cold. Therefore, in his heart, he felt that Lung Ziyue was a cold and heartless person. Perhaps he brought him back because he wanted to have an heir. Dad, Lung Rui looked up. You came back to ask for money. How much? Lung Ziyue clenched his fists and glanced at the woman not far away. She seemed to be looking at a contract. He thought to himself that this woman must want something to appear in the villa. She was still in pajamas. Without thinking, he knew that something crazy must have happened in the villa last night. Lung Ziyue was a little glad that he did not come back. If there's no problem with the contract, I'll sign it. When Lung Ziyue opened his mouth to ask how much he wanted, the woman's voice suddenly rang out and stunned him. When Tang Guo looked up, he jumped up and was about to ask loudly, Xiao Guo, why are you here? He felt Lung Rui's sharp gaze and his voice was stuck in his throat. He could only stare at Tang Guo and slowly sit down. Tang Guo only glanced at him and signed her name on the contract. Lung Ziyue looked at Tang Guo for a long time until Lung Rui's gaze landed on him again. He quickly looked away and forgot the purpose of his return. His mind was full of questions. Why was Xiao Guo in the villa? Why was Xiao Guo in the villa? She was even wearing pajamas. Had Xiao Guo become his father's woman? Was it because he had hurt Xiao Guo so much that Xiao Guo had given up on herself and found a random man? He wanted to ask Tang Guo now. Unfortunately, Xiao Guo had become his father's woman. If he dared to ask, he and Xiao Guo would be finished. Lung Ziyue's gaze was anxious, but Lung Rui was impatient. You didn't come back for money? I came back to ask for money. Lung Ziyue's brain was still a little blank. When he heard Lung Rui's question, he answered without thinking. As soon as he finished speaking, he regretted it. It was fine if it was another woman, but this woman was Tang Guo, his ex-girlfriend. He only regarded Tang Guo as Lu Qi's substitute. He didn't want to do anything to hurt Lu Qi, so they were just a simple couple. But regardless of whether they were intimate or not, they were still a couple after all. Why did Xiao Guo become his father's woman? How much? Lung Rui's voice pulled Lung Ziyue back to reality. He looked at Tang Guo eagerly, gritted his teeth, and said, 20 million. He thought that Lung Rui would say more and that Tang Guo would look at him strangely. However, Tang Guo ate her breakfast slowly. As for Lung Rui, he took out the check, quickly filled in the amount, signed his name, and threw the check in front of him without hesitation. He did it cleanly and handsomely. Chapter 8. You can rest today. Don't go anywhere else. I'll be back early tonight. If there's a need, I'll send someone to pick you up. After Lung Rui said this, he took his briefcase and left. Lung Ziyue's heart skipped a beat. Come back early tonight? Send someone to pick her up when there's a need. So, Xiao Guo was really his father's woman? He glanced at the contract. It was from Nebula Music. Xiao Guo followed his father because of the Nebula Music contract. She was even at his beck and call if there's a need. Lung Ziyue rubbed his hair in pain. Xiao Guo, even if you blame me and resent me, you don't have to degrade yourself like this. Tang Guo glanced at Lung Ziyue, who was in so much pain that he wanted to die. She took a sip of milk and reminded him, shouldn't you return the money to me? Lung Ziyue, you still owe me 20 million. Xiao Guo, Tang Guo looked at the check. Are you going to return the money to me? Lung Ziyue was a little sad. He pushed the check in front of Tang Guo. This was originally for you. Xiao Guo, why did you do this? Lung Ziyue looked apologetic. If the breakup was a blow to you, you can come to me. You can take revenge on me however you want. Why did you have to degrade yourself and sell yourself like a commodity? Tang Guo held the check in her hand. When she heard this, she looked up and said casually, I can take revenge on you however I want. Yes, as long as you don't degrade yourself in the future, you can do whatever you want to me. I'll accept it. Then I'll remember it. Tang Guo smiled. I'm full. Take your time to eat. Xiao Guo, my father isn't a good person. In 2 days, he'll throw you out of the villa. You'd better plan early. Even if you get the contract with Nebula, my father won't be interested in you anymore. Nebula won't take care of you and you won't be able to get anything you want. However, Tang Guo had already gone upstairs in the direction of Lung Rui's room. Lung Ziyue had no doubt that there was something going on between the two of them. Xiao Guo, Lung Ziyue called out to Tang Guo who was about to disappear, don't be so casual in the future. After you leave, come and find me. If you want to be a singer, I'll help you. Tang Guo turned around and smiled. No need. Your dad is much better than you. He's handsome, rich, and has the charm of a mature man. He's very attractive. Just as Lung Ziyue was about to say more, his phone rang. When he saw the caller ID, he didn't have time to say anything to Tang Guo and quickly picked up the phone. Chichi, why are you calling me so early? Ziyu, where are you? Lung Ziyue glanced at the stairs. There was no one there. He let out a sigh of relief. I'm going home. Chichi, what's the matter? Just as he finished asking, Tang Guo's soft voice sounded next to him. She sounded like she hadn't woken up yet. Ziyu, who's calling you? Ziyu, Do you have a little vixen outside? Tang Guo blinked. The corners of her mouth curved into a faint smile, but it was full of malice. Although her voice was sweet and seemed to be acting coquettishly with him, in fact, Tang Guo was standing far away from him. There was no intimacy at all. Leng Ziyue's whole body stiffened. It was Lu Qi's voice on the phone that woke him up. Leng Ziyue, who is she? You really disappoint me. I thought you were different. I didn't expect that I, Lu Qi, would be blind in the end. Without giving Leng Ziyue a chance to explain, there was a busy tone on the phone. Chichi, Chichi. Chapter 9. Xiao Guo, do you remember what I said? Tang Guo sat in a comfortable nanny van, looking lazy. There was a professional makeup artist helping her with her makeup, and a professional hairstylist doing her hair. The woman who spoke was her manager, Yu Yu, who looked to be in her 30s. A high-end nanny van, a top manager, a top makeup artist, a stylist, and a hairstylist were all by her side. There were also 2 little assistants helping her with her chores. Such a high-profile appearance in the semi-finals naturally attracted the attention of some people. Because of the existence of Leng Rui, she could skip the audition and enter the semi-finals directly. In fact, there were many people like her. But there were not many people who came to the semi-finals in such a high-profile manner. Who's in the van? Is it a famous singer who came as a guest? Right now, there are already a lot of people waiting outside the venue of the semi-finals. Tang Guo's luxury van attracted a lot of people's attention. I've never heard of it. Hey, look over there, there's a nanny van too. Is there really a surprise? At this time, Tang Guo had already gotten out of the van. Hearing the discussion outside, she turned to look in a certain direction. Coincidentally, the door of the van was also opened. Leng Ziyue carefully helped a beautiful woman out of the van. That pained expression on his face was as if he was holding a precious treasure. Wow, she's so beautiful. She's not a singer, right? I don't think I've seen her before. This voice was not praising Tang Guo, but Lu Qi. Lu Qi was indeed beautiful. She was the kind that could attract attention in a crowd. Hey, she has a number tag on her, a sharp-eyed girl exclaimed. She's also here for the semi-finals. Soon, a few girls who were friendly ran up to Lu Qi. Surprisingly, Lu Qi was kind and quickly got along with these girls. These girls looked innocent and did not seem to be jealous that Lu Qi had a professional assistant and a nanny van. She even had a handsome boyfriend like Leng Ziyue to accompany her. Instead, after hearing Lu Qi humming a few lines, they were shocked and instantly became Lu Qi's fans. Tang Guo was sitting on a chair, lazily propping up her chin. She glanced at Lu Qi, who was moving in the crowd with ease, and blinked her beautiful eyes from time to time. That's the daughter of the Lu family. She just came back from her studies abroad. Before she went abroad, she was a genius in the music class. She's your biggest rival this time. Yu Yu analyzed calmly. The Lu family has a lot of connections in this circle. Although there is competition between the two of you, it's better not to get into a conflict with her if it's not necessary. Just now, she felt that there was something wrong with Tang Guo's gaze, so she gave her a warning. After the warning, before Tang Guo could say anything, Lu Qi said goodbye to the girls and walked towards Tang Guo. Leng Ziyue, who was accompanying her, had a nervous look on his face and seemed to be sweating. Lu Qi walked in front of Tang Guo and looked down at her. She raised her hand to look at her watch and said, "Miss Tang, there are still 20 minutes left. Let's talk in private." "Sure." Tang Guo raised her head. She did not stand up from the chair, nor did she have any intention of moving. Finally, she asked, "But, who are you?" Chapter 10. That's strange. Tang Guo rubbed her temples as if she was racking her brain. In the end, she shook her head. "Big sister, I don't think we've met before. Big sister, I don't think we've met before." This sentence completely made Lu Qi unable to hold it in any longer. She was indeed older than Tang Guo. Tang Guo was 19 this year while she was 21. She was 2 years older than Tang Guo. "Xiao Guo, even if you hate me, Chichi didn't do anything bad to you. Can't you talk nicely?" Yesterday, because of Tang Guo's disturbance, He had to explain to Chichi for a long time before she was appeased. Xiaoguo, I'm talking to you today because I want to make everything clear. Leng Ziyue couldn't hold it in anymore. It's all my fault. We have nothing to do with each other. I'll say something hurtful, but I'm with you because of Chichi. I only see you as Chichi's shadow. There's nothing between us. It's also Chichi's return that made me understand that I can't go on like this. Besides, I've given you all the compensation. Please don't ruin my relationship with Chichi in the future. Tang Gui yawned. True gold fears no fire. If you're really in love, why would you be afraid of me? Miss Tang, are you really going to pester him? Lu Qi couldn't hold it in anymore. After seeing Tang Gui like this, she chose to believe Leng Ziyue. Let me give you a piece of advice. You won't have a good ending if you ruin other people's relationship. You're a good match. Lu Qi had already thought of how to respond. Unexpectedly, Tang Gui suddenly said, Don't worry, I'm not interested in Leng Ziyue at all. She smiled. I found a man who's 100 times better than Leng Ziyue. Let's not talk anymore. We're about to enter the venue. Tang Gui stood up. She passed by Leng Ziyue and suddenly stopped. She raised her hand and patted Leng Ziyue's shoulder, who was much taller than her. She said earnestly, Young people, you should get along well. A relationship that hasn't experienced setbacks isn't real. I have high hopes for you. Leng Ziyue's face stiffened. From Tang Guo's tone just now, it was obvious that she regarded him as a junior. At the thought that Tang Guo was already his father's woman, he felt as uncomfortable as if he had swallowed a fly. Ziyue, I believe you. This woman is perverse. She must have said that on purpose because she was not reconciled to the result yesterday. Lu Qi held Leng Ziyue's arm. It's about to start. Let's go in. Leng Ziyue nodded stiffly. He hoped that his father would break off his relationship with Tang Guo as soon as possible. Otherwise, he would definitely go crazy. Originally, there were 60 contestants in the semifinals. Tang Guo and Lu Qi decided to participate in the final. Therefore, there were a total of 62 people in the semifinals. The rules were based on a scoring system. The highest score would enter the finals, and only 20 people would be able to enter the finals. Lu Qi was number 61, and Tang Guo was number 62. Lu Qi was beautiful, so beautiful that it was suffocating. She also had a handsome boyfriend like Leng Ziyue to accompany her. In addition, she spoke in a pleasant voice. Many people regarded her as a rival. As for Tang Guo, although she seemed to be high profile, she was always sitting alone in the corner. Her leisurely appearance made people feel more relaxed. The three mentors had listened to the 60 singers with varying strengths before them. They were almost sick of listening to them. Therefore, when it was Lu Qi's turn to go on stage, they were a little uninterested. Chapter 11. Lu Qi's voice was beautiful and had a unique magnetism. She was singing a very famous English song. This English song had a light rhythm and could instantly take away people's fatigue. At the same time, it wasn't a song that anyone could sing. The three instructors were mesmerized by the song and were even discussing it quietly. The expressions on their faces showed that they were very satisfied with Lu Qi. As expected, when Lu Qi finished singing, the three instructors gave her scores, 96, 97, 98. On average, Lu Qi's score was as high as 97 points. She instantly became everyone's opponent. Before Lu Qi, the highest score was only 94 points. So now, no one dared to look down on Lu Qi. There's still number 62, right? At this moment, one of the instructors asked. Obviously, his tone wasn't very good. Instructor number 2 nodded and leaned over. He said in a low voice, someone specially arranged for her to come here. Her background isn't small. We must let her advance. They've already informed us. Otherwise, we won't be working here anymore. Instructor number 3 looked helpless. There's nothing we can do about it. 1 or 2 occasionally, we can still take it. Let's hope she doesn't sing too badly. The three of them were whispering to each other and discussing how many points they would give her later. Tang Guo had already gone up on stage. When the three instructors saw Tang Guo, they were a little surprised. Tangua's appearance was really too pure. The corners of her mouth were slightly curved and she revealed a faint smile. She was simply a man's first love goddess. With this appearance, they felt a little better in their hearts. They thought that no matter how bad the song was later, they would endure it. At least she was good-looking. Mentors, are you all ready? I'm going to sing. A soft and sweet voice sounded. It was like the sun after the rain shining on people's bodies. It was so warm that it warmed people's hearts. The three instructors looked at each other. They were robbed of their lines. Shouldn't they be the ones asking, is so-and-so ready? If she was ready, she could start. As instructors, they smiled and nodded, indicating that Tangua could start singing. They thought that the next scene would be a tragic car accident. They didn't expect that what pierced their eardrums was a voice from heaven. This is the voice that has been kissed by an angel, right? Instructor number 1 looked a little dazed. Listening to her voice, my tiredness from before is completely gone. There's a cool feeling all over my body. It's so comfortable. Instructor number 2 didn't say anything. He had his eyes closed. One look and you could tell that he was immersed in Tangua's voice. Instructor number 3 seemed a little excited. They had only heard half of the song and she was already impatiently giving the score. Her hands were trembling. I want to give her full marks. The audience below the stage was also very quiet. At the beginning, they were discussing softly, but in the end, they didn't even want to make a sound. It was as if they didn't have the heart to destroy the sound feast in front of them. This was the discussion of the contestants backstage. I was originally very nervous, but when I heard her sing, my heart calmed down. Her voice seemed to be able to dispel all my nervousness. I think I like her voice. Even though we are competitors, I can't bring myself to hate her. The duration of a song was only a few minutes, and it passed very quickly. But after Tangua finished singing, the venue was very quiet. No one broke this silence. After a minute, the three instructors were the first to wake up. They looked at Tangua with excitement and passion. Chapter 12. 1001001000. The three contestants with 100 points appeared in front of the camera. The MC gasped in surprise and even asked the three judges why they got full marks. In fact, he was very excited too. If anyone says that their voice was kissed by an angel in the future, I'll definitely slap them, number 1 said seriously. They should come and listen to student number 62's voice. Her voice is too perfect. I can't find any words to describe it. Number 3's teeth were trembling. This is the best voice I've heard in moving voice. There's no other. I don't know if there's a successor, but this is definitely unprecedented. The MC noticed that number 2 didn't say anything, so he couldn't help but ask what number 2 was thinking. Everyone perked up. Was there going to be a different evaluation? Unexpectedly, number 2 looked regretful and smiled a little embarrassedly. I'm just a little regretful. If she could continue singing, I might be able to sleep well. I've been suffering from insomnia for the past few years. This student number 62 seems to be able to cure my insomnia. Everyone couldn't help but laugh when they heard this. In the end, number 2 said, I hope you can release your album as soon as possible. I'll be the first to buy it. I'm still waiting for you to cure my insomnia. A joke that was half true and half false ended the match. The contestants backstage were all discussing Tangua's voice. Even Lung Ziue was immersed in it just now. Xiaoguo's singing was good, but he never knew it could be this good. It was so good that it mesmerized people and they were unknowingly sucked in. There was probably only one person awake at the scene, and that was Lu Qi. She came full of confidence. All these years of studying abroad weren't just for show. It could be said that among these newcomers, she definitely wouldn't have a match. She even had the ability to compete with some of the older singers. What she didn't expect was that just as everything started, Tangua's appearance shattered her beautiful dream. This Tangua who had Lung Ziue for a period of time made her jealous and annoyed. Chichi, do you think Tangua's voice is nice? Seeing that Lu Qi did not speak, the girl beside her thought that she was also immersed in Tangua's voice. Lu Qi's face stiffened and she lowered her eyes. It sounds nice. Suddenly, she changed the topic. She hasn't participated in the audition before? Auditions? I didn't see her during the auditions. If she had been there, I definitely wouldn't have forgotten her. After all, she sang so well. Lu Qi did not even raise her eyes. So, she directly participated in the semifinals. She must be the daughter of a powerful family. She frowned. Could it be that I haven't returned to China for a few years and have almost forgotten the things here? Why can't I remember where I saw her? The girl was surprised for a moment. In the end, she thought of something and said, maybe. The finals would be held 2 weeks later. During this time, the recording of the semi-finals would be split into 2 episodes. In the first episode, Lu Qi and Tang Guo were not on the show. But in the second episode, their performances were praised by many people. Lu Qi was named the goddess with a sexy voice, and Tang Guo was called the pure angel. However, Tang Guo, who had just received this title, suddenly became a hot topic. Chapter 13. The content on Weibo revealed that Tang Guo was just a fresh graduate. A month ago, she was still working in a music studio. It also said that Tang Guo's background was very simple. She grew up in an orphanage and did not have any impressive background, nor did she have any powerful relatives. An ordinary graduate and a small employee in a music studio. At the scene of the semi-finals, she actually had a very high-end nanny van and was accompanied by a top hairstylist and makeup artist. She did not participate in the audition and directly entered the semi-finals. This made people think too much. This industry could not stand people's guesses. In an instant, Tang Guo's image as a pure angel fell. Instead, she became a dirty woman who used special means to seek refuge with a sugar daddy. She did not deserve the 2 titles of pure and angel. She was previously praised, but now she was being trampled on. All kinds of unpleasant words filled the internet. On the other side, Lu Qi, who was also very popular, was exposed. Lu Qi was the daughter of the Lu family. She studied abroad a few years ago and was a genius in the music class. She did not participate in the audition because the program team thought she had the ability and gave her a place. Host, so you really wanted to follow the plot. Not bad, you did well this time. That's how it should be. The system was a little excited. You wanted to be in the limelight, but because of Lu Qi's existence, you lost face. It's very fitting for a female supporting character. Tang Guo instantly threw 2 words at the system. Idiot. She took out her phone and dialed Leng Rui's number in the phone book. At that time, Leng Rui was in a meeting. Basically, no one would call him. They would call the company to find him. He had forgotten to give his phone number to Tang Guo. Otherwise, he would have turned off his phone before the meeting. Suddenly, the phone rang. The higher-ups looked at each other and shrunk their necks. They quickly checked if their phones were turned off. When they were almost done checking, the phone was still ringing. It was getting crazier and crazier. In the end, they were very sure that the phone was ringing from Leng Rui's direction. Leng Rui also felt that something was wrong, especially when he felt the strange gazes of the higher-ups. When he took out his phone, the higher-ups all rejoiced. As expected, it wasn't theirs, but their bosses. In the end, the higher-ups were a little curious. Who actually dared to call at this time? Didn't they feel that boss's frown was very scary? Leng Rui was about to hang up without hesitation when a text message popped up. He subconsciously clicked on it. There was a long list of content. Leng Rui, someone is spreading rumors and slandering me on the internet. They're insulting me in such a way that my fragile heart is about to collapse. I can't take it anymore. If you don't deal with this soon, you might see a beautiful corpse when you return at night. The higher-ups noticed that their boss's hand was trembling. Leng Rui glanced at them expressionlessly, and they quickly lowered their heads. Who's in charge of the nebula? Leng Rui wanted to turn off his phone directly, but he only turned it off after replying to a text message. The content of the message was, "I'll deal with it immediately." When the higher-ups heard this, they were stunned. In the end, one of the senior managers had no choice but to stand up. "It's me. Lung Rui's slender fingers tapped rhythmically on the table as he raised his eyebrows. Deal with the rumors online. Yes. Chapter 14. In less than an hour, all the rumors and posts about Tanguy disappeared without a trace. Just as everyone was guessing, Star Cloud posted something on Weibo, stating that Tanguy was a talented singer that they had just discovered. Of course, they would spend a lot of money to nurture her. The post even made up stories about where they found Tanguy and how they managed to sign her. In short, the ability to make up stories was more convincing than the posts that scolded Tanguy. Most importantly, they even posted the contract that Tanguy had signed with Star Cloud. This time, no one doubted it. Everyone had witnessed Tanguy's abilities. No one dared to say that she wasn't capable. Some of the anti-fans were still struggling. In the end, Star Cloud posted a piece of evidence. This piece of evidence was that one of the contestants had bribed the ghostwriters to slander Tanguy. Looking at the large amount of records, the transfer of money and the conversation between the contestant and the ghostwriters, all the words that were scolding Tanguy disappeared in an instant. The passers-by fans who were still angry were now scolding the contestant who had bribed the ghostwriters. In the end, when they found her competition records, they realized that her singing was only average. In an instant, she was drowned in their saliva. The production team quickly dealt with the matter and stripped the contestant of the right to continue competing. Because of the slander this time, Tanguy's popularity seemed to have increased. Many of the people who had slandered her in the past came to Weibo to apologize. However, apart from posting some promotional posts, Tanguy never posted anything about herself. As a result, her fans couldn't communicate with her even if they wanted to. Just as her fans were feeling hopeless, Tanguy posted something. My sugar daddy is amazing. With just one word from him, no one dares to scold me. Whoever scolds me will be unlucky. As soon as this post was posted, it was reposted by countless people. The fans didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Guogua is angry. Yeah, anyone who has been wronged would be angry. That show is so annoying. She doesn't have the ability, but she hired ghostwriters to slander her. Our Guogua sings so well and is so beautiful. It's inevitable that many people will be jealous of her. If there are any more negative posts like this in the future, we have to keep our eyes open to avoid being misled by others. That's right. It's hard to guess what people are thinking these days. Isn't it because Guogua doesn't have any background that he dares to act so recklessly? Look at the girl next door. Who dares to say anything about her? That's right, that's right. If Guogua really had a sugar daddy, would he still dare to slander her like this? Only after the post had been reposted countless times did you see it. Ancestor, can you discuss it with me before you post next time? Yu looked helpless. She really had a sugar daddy, and she was also powerful. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been so willing. Tanguy ate her popsicle and didn't care at all. It's okay. I have a sugar daddy. If anyone scolds me, he will help me scold them back. Yu was speechless. Just as she was about to warn him, her phone rang. Yes. I don't have any plans. I'm free. Okay, I'll send her over right away. Yu hung up the phone and let out a sigh of relief. Your sugar daddy wants you to go over right away. Sugar daddy, what song would you like to listen to today? Tanguy sat on the sofa with one hand supporting her chin. Her beautiful eyes stared at Lung Rui. This man was so handsome. It was just that his hobbies were a little special. Chapter 15. After Tanguy finished the song, the tyranny in Lung Rui's heart almost calmed down. He opened his eyes slightly and found that the woman who had been sitting far away was observing him from a close distance. Her angelic face was about to touch the tip of his nose, and the fragrance that belonged to a woman permeated the air around him. Seeing him open his eyes, Tanguy blew a breath and blinked. Sugar daddy, you're very efficient. I'm very satisfied. Besides listening to the song, do you need any other special services? No need. Lung Rui raised his hand and pushed Tanguy away. Get out. However, Tanguy didn't leave. Instead, she leaned against the desk and stared at Lung Rui's body. Sugar daddy, you have such a good figure. The kind that makes one's imagination run wild just by looking at it. You can make one's imagination run wild just by wearing clothes. I wonder what you look like when you're not wearing anything. Tangwa narrowed her eyes. She didn't hide the admiration in her eyes at all. Her eyes were so clear, but the words she said made Lungrui feel like he was being violated by a perverted woman. Tangwa raised her chin with her fair and slender fingers. Her pink lips curled up slightly. Her angelic face revealed a devilish smile. Sugar daddy, you look very shy. Tangwa narrowed her eyes and gently bit the corner of her lips. You look very seductive. Just as Lungrui was about to get angry, Tangwa stood up naturally. She tidied up her makeup with a sweet smile on her face. Okay, I'm leaving. Remember to miss me. If you have any special thoughts, you can send someone to pick me up. Lungrui, I don't have any special thoughts about this woman. Before leaving, Tangwa even sent a flying kiss to Lungrui, which made Lungrui a little regret. Why did he choose such a perverse woman like Tangwa? I just think that my sugar daddy is very handsome. I'm only interested in your money and appearance. I'm not interested in the position of Mrs. Lung. Tangwa blinked and spoke in a low voice. Her voice was soft and sweet, as if it could reach the tip of one's heart. To put it bluntly, I just want to have sex with you. Ha ha ha. After that, Tangwa decisively opened the office door and left quickly. Lungrui clenched his fists, tugged at his collar, and sneered. A woman who didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth wanted to take him, he should really throw her out to feed the sharks. However, when he closed his eyes, the image of the woman leaving the office and standing at the door saying, I just want to fuck you appeared in his mind. Immediately, a fire rose in his heart. Lungrui quickly came to his senses. He frowned and tapped his fingers on the table. No woman could stay by his side for more than a month. Any woman's voice would lose its effect on him after a month at most. Lungrui relaxed and smiled. His worries were unnecessary. Soon, this woman would disappear from his sight. When Tangwa got into the car, Yu was a little surprised. She looked at her watch and saw that only 10 minutes had passed. She subconsciously asked, so fast? Tangwa was stunned for a moment, then understood what Yu meant. She burst into laughter and gently touched her forehead with her fingers. The corners of her lips curled up. She didn't help Lungrui prove his innocence and nodded regretfully. Yes. Chapter 16. The finals are the day after tomorrow. Xiaogua, are you ready? To be honest, Yu was very nervous. Tangwa had a financial backer behind her, but for those who were in this industry, if they wanted to have a smoother career, other than those with a strong background, who didn't have a few people supporting her behind her back. No matter how talented she was, if no one helped her, she would eventually become an ordinary person with no chance to stand out. From the moment she heard Tangwa sing the first line, she was very optimistic. As long as Tangwa didn't court death, she would definitely be famous in the future. It could be said that the finals were the day after tomorrow, and she was even more nervous than Tangwa. On the other hand, Tangwa still looked as if it had nothing to do with her and didn't care at all. This made her feel very uncertain. Tangwa. Seeing that Tangwa was still drinking milk tea and eating dessert, Yu could not sit still. Ancestor, you're now a somewhat famous person. Can't you restrain yourself? What if you get fat after eating so much? Don't worry. Tangwa wiped the corner of her mouth and said confidently, I'll definitely be first. Don't forget, there's still one person who's a big threat to you. Yu sneered. Lu Qi's ability is more than that. If you lose to her, don't cry in front of me. Tangwa narrowed her eyes. I won't lose, especially not to her. Yu was not comforted by Tangwa. Instead, she said seriously, I've asked around before. There are 2 more judges for the finals. Seeing that Tangwa didn't seem to care, Yu decided to make Tangwa pay attention to this matter. The other 2 will definitely support Lu Qi. She's quite capable. Even if the other 3 judges like you, it's not impossible for them to turn to her side in the end for various reasons. Not to mention anything else, if one of the judges gives Tangwa a lower score than Lu Qi, it can completely change the result. The Lu family found someone for her? Tang Guo finally stopped eating. Yu Yu shook her head. It's young Master Lung. Yu Yu did not know that Lung Ziyue was Lung Rui's adopted son. Or rather, almost no one in the outside world knew of their relationship. Lung Ziyue. Tang Guo smiled meaningfully. Who are you looking for? Tong Kan, Chen Yun. Yu Yu was a little worried. These two are famous veteran singers. Not only are they good at singing, but they also have a lot of fans. Also, I heard that they want to enter the film industry. Lu Qi is not bad herself. If I help her, I can also curry favor with young Master Lung. Why not? Young Master Lung is in charge of the entire Star Cloud Productions. Do you think the two of them will help Lu Qi or help you? Yu Yu thought that Tang Guo would panic if she said that. Unfortunately, Tang Guo continued to bury her head in eating ice cream. She even ate it with relish, which made Yu Yu feel a headache coming on. Ancestor, I've said so much. Are you listening or not? Tang Guo raised her head. When she was about to say something, her gaze suddenly paused. The corner of her mouth curled up into a bright and evil smile, which attracted Yu Yu's attention. The two people who stepped into the milk tea shop also saw Tang Guo immediately. When Yu Yu saw the two of them, she subconsciously felt that something was wrong. Lung Ziyue originally wanted to hold Lu Qi's hand and leave. However, Lu Qi dragged Lung Ziyue in. Miss Tang, what a coincidence. Lu Qi did not expect that the previous incident did not cause a blow to Tang Guo. Instead, it helped her gain popularity. Chapter 17. Because she knew that Tang Guo had a sugar daddy, Lu Qi no longer cared about Lung Ziyue. This kind of money-worshipping woman was not worthy of being compared with her. Tang Guo did not answer Lu Qi's question. Instead, she looked at Lung Ziyue with a smile on her lips. Seeing this smile, Lung Ziyue subconsciously felt that something was wrong and wanted to pull Lu Qi away. However, Tang Guo's words had already been spoken. Lung Ziyue, you're really interesting. You brought your current girlfriend to the place where you often dated your ex-girlfriend. Tang Guo ate a mouthful of ice cream happily. You couldn't find a good place to date, so you thought that this place was cheap, affordable, and familiar with the place, so you brought her here? Host, we have an agreement. You are not allowed to destroy the relationship between the male and female lead. When the system heard this, it couldn't sit still anymore. What kind of trouble was this crazy host going to come up with again? Tang Guo smiled softly and said, I didn't destroy their relationship. True gold fears no fire. I'm just setting up obstacles to deepen their relationship. System, I'm not stupid. Tang Guo, you're not stupid, you're just a little retarded. Compared to the smile on Tang Guo's face, Lu Qi's face was as long as a donkey's face. She knew that Tang Guo was deliberately provoking her, but when she heard these words, she was still furious. She even felt that Lung Ziyue was disrespecting her. Wasn't it better to go to a high-end coffee shop? Why did he have to come to this kind of milk tea shop and meet this shameless woman, Tang Guo? Xiao Guo, do you have to say this? Lung Ziyue frowned. You weren't like this before. Why are you so unreasonable now? Chi didn't offend you. Originally, Lung Ziyue felt a little guilty that he found two judges to help Lu Qi. But now, facing Tang Guo, his guilt was gone. He brought Lu Qi to this milk tea shop because he thought that the milk tea here tasted good and wanted to share it with his beloved woman. As a result, Chi definitely felt uncomfortable in her heart after Tang Guo's actions. Lung Ziyue was also increasingly dissatisfied with Tang Guo. He felt that she had changed. From an innocent girl, she had become a jealous and materialistic person. Chi, didn't you mention a coffee shop before? Lung Ziyue stopped looking at Tang Guo and asked Lu Qi carefully. Lu Qi smiled because of Lung Ziyue's attitude. Ziyue, are you going now? Of course, doesn't Chi like it very much? Lung Ziyue's face was full of tenderness. He looked like a good man, which made Lu Qi feel satisfied. You can choose any place from now on, okay? Tang Guo's words were directed at her because she was unwilling to give up. Although the other party had occupied Lung Ziyue for a period of time when she was abroad, nothing happened between the two of them, so she did not win Lung Ziyue's heart. Tang Guo was a failure. Even if she wasn't by Lung Ziyue's side, she still couldn't get Lung Ziyue's heart. With this thought, the discomfort in Lu Qi's heart dissipated. There was no need for her to argue with a loser. She was just a clown. Lung Ziyue didn't even say goodbye to Tang Guo. He held Lu Qi's hand and left. Tang Guo smiled from beginning to end. Look, they love each other so deeply. If it weren't for me, would they be so loving? Host, are you serious? The system was a little confused now. Lung Ziyue and Lu Qi seemed to be more loving. Chapter 18. Does it sound good? After Tang Guo finished singing a soothing song, she smiled and looked at the man who was leaning on the sofa with a relaxed expression. She held her chin with both hands, and her voice was soft and sweet. Her beautiful eyes blinked. Look at your face. It must be very nice. When Lang Rui listened to her singing, he would never speak. He would be very quiet, and the oppressive and terrifying aura on him would disappear without a trace. Sometimes, listening to her singing, he would fall asleep quickly and sleep until the next morning. More than half a month had passed, and this woman's singing still had a great effect on him. It was not different from what he had imagined and from the women in the past because of the passage of time. Lang Rui, actually, you can praise me. Tang Guo narrowed her eyes at the man's strong body under the loose nightgown and smiled. Are you interested in doing something else? I've been eyeing your body for a long time. Lung Rui opened his eyes and glanced at the shameless woman beside him. He reached out and pinched Tang Guo's sharp chin. The woman's skin was smooth and beautiful, and it was a little irresistible. Thick-skinned woman. Tang Guo's chin was red from Lung Rui's pinch. He didn't look like a person who would have tender feelings for women. Tang Guo didn't seem to feel the pain. Instead, she smiled. People have to be thick-skinned. Lung Rui, who asked you to be so good-looking? You always let people's imaginations run wild. Lung Rui increased his strength, and there was a dangerous smile in his eyes. Do you know how sharks eat people? You're really willing. Her soft and sweet voice made Lung Rui's heart freeze, and he let go of her. Tang Guo smiled. I knew you couldn't bear to. The woman's chin was red from being pinched, but there was still a smile on her face, which made Lung Rui unable to see through her. Tang Guo was the first woman who didn't hide anything from him and only liked his appearance and didn't intend to be with him. In the past, more or less, women would say that they liked him very much and wanted to be with him just because they liked him. She never knew how to express that she liked his figure, money, or status. This woman was very clear that she was interested in his power and appearance. Lung Rui regained his composure. Wearing a loose nightgown, he sat down and said casually, Tell me, what's the matter? After living together for more than half a month, he knew this woman's temper very well. She would first make him happy, then take the opportunity to make a request. This was her usual tactic. He didn't think about why he didn't expose her and instead played this old trick with her. Tang Guo took the opportunity to sit next to Lung Rui, and Lung Rui didn't stop her. If he wasn't willing, could it be that a weak woman could force herself on him? He had completely forgotten how much he hated it when women came within half a meter of him. Tang Guo took an inch and wanted a mile. She hugged Lung Rui's arm with her small hands, like a cat acting coquettishly with a human. Lung Ziyue helped Lu Qi find 2 judges. They want to trick me in the finals. Tang Guo rubbed her chin against Lung Rui's arm, showing a pitiful look. She looked at Lung Rui with her watery eyes. She's jealous that I can sing well, so she wants to use other means to deprive me of the first place. If I can't get the first place, and it's because of this kind of under-the-table manipulation, my soul may suffer a huge blow, and I may never want to sing again in my life. Lung Rui's mouth trembled. He had never seen a woman more shameless than Tang Guo in his life. System, I feel the same. Chapter 19. Lung Rui, you're really a righteous warrior. You used your power to uphold justice. Tang Guo looked at Lung Rui, who had just hung up the phone. Her lips curled into a sly smile like a little fox. Lung Rui slapped away Tang Guo's claws. Next time, be more direct and don't beat around the bush. When this woman was useful to him, he could satisfy any of her requests as long as he was willing to. After saying this, Lung Rui felt the woman's undisguised gaze. The corners of his eyes trembled. Before she could speak, he said, "Hurry up, go upstairs and sleep." Lung Ziyue pushed open the door and heard this sentence. His father impatiently urged the woman, who was also wearing pajamas, to go upstairs and sleep. His brain was a little blank, but he still walked in woodenly. If he had known, he would have gone to the company to look for Lung Rui during the day. He knew that when he came back at night, he would encounter some unsightly scene. Fortunately, he came back early, and the two of them looked like they were just about to start. Even so, Lung Ziyue felt uncomfortable. After all, Tangwa used to be his girlfriend. "Dad." Lung Ziyue was as obedient as a baby in front of Lung Rui. "I have something to discuss with you." After saying that, he looked at Tangwa. The woman was wearing a short-sleeved cotton nightgown. Her black curly hair was let down, and her face was still pure. Her exquisite collarbone under the collar added a bit of seductiveness to her. The nightgown's hemline was just above her knees. A pair of straight, snow-white legs swayed a little dazzlingly. The nightgown was very loose, but it still couldn't hide the woman's beautiful figure. Lung Ziyue was a little dazed for a moment. Lung Rui frowned and walked in front of Lung Ziyue. He didn't know whether it was intentional or not, but he blocked Tangwa's figure. "Let's talk in the study. Go to the room and wait for me." Lung Rui turned his head and said to Tangwa. His eyes clearly showed that he was trying to say, "You thick-skinned woman, do you want to sleep with Lung Ziyue?" After all, Lung Ziyue also has a very good-looking body. Tangwa trotted to Lung Rui's side, tiptoed, and whispered in his ear, "Don't worry, I only want to sleep with you. You're more handsome, richer, and more charming." This sentence made Lung Rui feel very subtle. His voice wasn't soft, and Lung Ziyue heard it. His face immediately stiffened, and he clenched his fists, feeling a little stifled. "I'll wait for you to come back." Tangwa's figure disappeared, and the father and son came to the study. Lung Ziyue finally couldn't help but ask, "Dad, when is this woman moving out?" It had been more than half a month. Lung Rui glanced at Lung Ziyue, causing the latter to jump in fright. How could he dare to meddle in Lung Rui's affairs? "Dad, that's not what I meant. This woman is the same as the other women before her. In order to achieve her goal, she will sell all kinds of things. This kind of woman is just for fun. Dad, don't take it seriously. Today, she is very obedient in front of you. Who knows, she might be lying in someone else's arms tomorrow." Lung Ziyue didn't expect that the smile on Lung Rui's face disappeared, and a trace of coldness appeared in his eyes. "The small celebrities in my company will find a sugar daddy for the sake of resources. Basically, they will change after a period of time. If they are more famous, the person they find has a higher status." The more Lung Ziyue spoke, the more energetic he became. If it's some has-been, no matter who it is, even if it's an 8-year-old old man with a greasy face, a fat head, and a big ears, or even a few men, they are willing as long as they are supported. Chapter 20. Lung Rui lit a cigarette and started smoking irritably. Without waiting for Lung Ziyue to continue, he asked, "Why are you looking for me?" Lung Ziyue then remembered the important matter. He calmed himself down and said, "Dad, I want Chichi to sign under Nebula Music. Chichi is quite famous now. It'll be better if there's a professional company to package her. Chichi has great potential. As long as the company is willing to spend resources to promote her, the company won't suffer any losses." He managed Nebula Films and Television. He couldn't control Nebula Music. In fact, he could say a word to let Lu Qi sign under Nebula Music. However, the effect wouldn't be as good as Lung Rui's. Lung Rui's words would make Lu Qi's value soar. The company would definitely promote her. "Who is she?" Lung Ziyue was speechless, but he still said, "She's my girlfriend." Lung Rui raised his eyebrows and said casually, "You can arrange it. If you can't even do this, don't worry about Nebula Films." Just as Lung Ziyue was about to fight for something, Lung Rui stopped him. Lung Ziyue looked at Lung Rui anxiously. "Dad, if you say something, what does your woman have to do with me?" Lung Rui's words stopped Lung Ziyue. "What kind of woman do you want to promote that you need me to help you? Is that all you're capable of? Lung Rui put out the cigarette, threw it into the ashtray, and walked out of the study. Dad, that woman is a... Lung Rui turned around and his sharp gaze fell on Lung Ziue. The latter's voice was stuck in his throat. His dad seemed to be a little dissatisfied with him. Lung Ziue rubbed his hair irritably. He didn't achieve his goal and could only leave the villa silently. He didn't want to stay in the villa for a night. If he heard anything, he would probably die of heartache. Even if he didn't hear anything, he was already heartache. It's already the third song. Tangguo glanced at the man who was leaning against the bed and smoking a cigarette. Lung Rui, when are you going to sleep? Lung Rui threw the unfinished cigarette into the ashtray. His sharp eyes fell on the woman's fair face. Her cheeks were pink and rosy, and her watery eyes were especially attractive. He narrowed his eyes. Such a woman, even if she moved out of his villa in the future, there would still be countless men willing to support her. Lung Rui, have you changed your mind? Do you want to do something other than listening to music? Before Lung Rui could react, the woman placed her hands beside him. Her fragrance could not be stopped as it permeated the air around him. A little fox. What a charming woman. The final decision will be made tomorrow. Tangguo sat back on the chair and hummed. He sounded a little disappointed, as if he didn't have any other thoughts. Lung Rui didn't know whether to laugh or cry. What a lustful woman. You've been in the villa for more than half a month. Lung Rui's tone became a little cold. No woman has ever stayed here for more than a month. Tangguo held her face with both hands and blinked. So, what are you trying to say? You've done well during this period of time. Lung Rui took out a contract and a property certificate from the drawer next to him. This is the latest contract from Nebula Music, and I'll give you a villa as your reward. From the beginning, Lung Rui didn't intend to let this woman stay in the villa for more than a month. He wouldn't allow any exceptions. Chapter 21. Lung Rui, this is my new sugar daddy. He said that he wants to support me and make me popular all over the country and the world. Oh right, Lung Rui, look over there, there's a group of men. Tangguo had a seductive smile on her face. They're all waiting to support me. They'll help me take revenge on whoever badmouths me. Lung Rui opened his eyes abruptly and realized that he had just had a very strange dream. The woman in the dream proudly boasted in front of him that there were countless men waiting to support her. That smug look on her face woke him up. He raised his head and looked at the bed in the corner. He could not see the woman's face in the dark, but he was sure that she was there. Sure enough, this woman had already affected him. After the finals tomorrow, he would make her move away. Tangguo woke up very early. When she woke up, Lung Rui was already gone. She heard from the servant that he rushed to the company before the sun rose. Tangguo did not think too much about it. Yu had already come to pick her up and bring her to the finals. Originally, there were 20 contestants in the finals. One contestant had been disqualified from the competition because he bribed the Internet Water Army to frame Tangguo. There were only 19 contestants left. The program team seemed to look down on the eliminated contestants and did not choose anyone to replace them. Compared to the last semi-final, Tangguo was surrounded by many fans outside the finals this time. They asked her for her autograph. She did not refuse and signed a beautiful autograph. She was fast and her handwriting was beautiful. There was a sweet smile on her face all the time. Some of the male fans blushed. Lu Qi has signed with Nebula Music. Yu whispered in Tangguo's ear. It seems that young Master Lung is planning to support her. I heard from the higher-ups that a lot of resources will fall on Lu Qi. With her current popularity, many businessmen have approached her. Even a few TV stations' variety show teams have approached her. Ancestor, when I say this, can you not be so indifferent? Yu looked helpless. You rejected those endorsements and variety shows. This is a good opportunity for you. Even if you only like singing, you have to make a name for yourself first, right? It's not easy to get started in this industry. Many contestants who left Moving Voice thought that as long as they could sing well, they would be fine. In the end, most of them disappeared from the audience. If you can leave a good impression on the audience, It will definitely be of great help to your future development. As the saying goes, if you want the audience to buy your songs, you first need to be a good person. Then, make them like you and treat you as their idol. Then, you're halfway to success. Yu pointed around. Look at the scene today. How many fans does Lu Qi have? Tangguo gently raised her eyes. Sure enough, she found that almost a large number of people around were coming for Lu Qi. Don't ask her how she could tell. These people were holding a sign with Lu Qi's name on it. If you lose to Lu Qi in today's finals, Yu said with a serious look, you'll always be under her feet. Tangguo sneered, Sister Yu, why do you think I will lose to her? Chapter 22. Lu Qi arrived late. The moment she walked in, she was looking for Tangguo. Lu Qi was accompanied by Leng Ziyue as usual. When Leng Ziyue saw Tangguo, he couldn't help but think of what he saw when he went back to the villa last night. Now, every time he saw Tangguo, a voice would appear in his mind. This was his father's woman, the woman who would make love with his father every night. How frustrating. Tangguo felt the two strange gazes. She raised her head slightly and revealed a sweet smile to the two. Lu Qi clenched her fists and then walked to the seat next to Tangguo with a smile. Tangguo, you seem to have a card up your sleeve. Are you very confident in this competition? Lu Qi was very beautiful, and she looked even better when she smiled. Your singing is very good and your voice is very nice. Are you sure you can win first place? Are you sure? Tangguo didn't answer Lu Qi's question but asked back. Lu Qi smiled faintly. I believe that my efforts will come true today. Of course, I am confident that I can win first place. Although you are very good, Tangguo, I am not bad either. Oh. Tangguo dragged out her voice. Everyone thought that she had admitted defeat, but who would have thought that her next words would make everyone tremble 3 times? Tangguo rested her chin on one hand and raised her eyes slightly. Don't even think about it. The first place is mine. Although you have worked hard for a long time for today's result, you seem to be very unlucky. Why did you have to meet me? If it weren't for me, your idea could still come true. Tangguo smiled sweetly, making people feel that she didn't have any ulterior motives. She was just expressing her inner thoughts. There was no sense of contradiction at all. However, you don't have to be disappointed. Although you are 2 years older than me, you are still very young. You will have plenty of opportunities. Lu Qi was defeated. The other contestants looked at each other. They all found that Lu Qi's beautiful smile was gone because of Tangguo. Lu Qi's chest rose and fell a few times. She took a deep breath for a long time before she calmed down. Don't be so sure. Lu Qi could no longer pretend to be magnanimous. Otherwise, your face will hurt. The others also saw that these two people were not on good terms, so they did not plan to get involved. In this semi-final, as long as there were no accidents, the first and second place would be Lu Qi and Tangguo. As for who would be number 1, that would depend on who had the ability. At this moment, the host backstage seemed to have found a topic to talk about. She couldn't wait to walk over. For a moment, all the cameras turned to the two of them. Lu Qi, Tangguo, did something happen between you two? The host looked excited. Or is it because you two are competitors, so you don't like each other? It was also because the two of them were newcomers that the host dared to ask such a question. By creating more topics, the show would become even more popular on the television station. Why would they care if it affected the two of them? As long as their show's viewership ratings went up, it would be fine. Lu Qi smiled generously. No, our relationship is very good. There is no unhappiness. However, our competition may seem like tit-for-tat to outsiders, but it is not the case. The competition between us is only for singing. There is no personal grudge involved. Besides, there is no personal grudge between me and Tangguo. I quite like her. Tangguo, is that so? Tangguo nodded. She is right. Chapter 23. But you're right about one thing. The backstage host knew the topic was coming, so he quickly asked, what is it? That's right. Tangguo narrowed her eyes. The corners of her mouth curled up slightly. Her smile was still so sweet. I don't like her. Lu Qi's face stiffened. Tanguo, aren't you afraid of losing your fans by expressing your thoughts so directly? Or do you not care about the fans behind you? The host's words were obviously directed at Tanguo. When Lu Qi heard this, the corners of her mouth curled up. She had really shot herself in the foot. Tanguo narrowed her eyes. My fans will understand me. They should like the real me more. If I act too magnanimous and reveal that I don't like Lu Qi one day, they will definitely think that they have become a fake fan. Since I'm going to be exposed sooner or later, I might as well express my thoughts from the beginning. Tanguo's lips curled up slightly, and her eyes fell on Lu Qi. This gave the latter a bad feeling, and she continued, however, I didn't expect that Lu Qi, whom I don't find pleasing to the eye, would find me pleasing to the eye. It sounds like she likes me a little. I'm really flattered. Hearing this, the backstage host's hand holding the microphone couldn't help but tremble. This was a good move. This time, Lu Qi was completely dragged into the water by Tanguo. If Lu Qi expressed that she didn't like Tanguo in the future, everyone would think that Lu Qi was a fake. Since she didn't like Tanguo, why did she pretend that they were harmonious? Lu Qi's face turned pale and she clenched her teeth tightly. I hope that the fans who listen to my songs and like my songs in the future will understand what kind of person I am. Tanguo faced the camera. In front of everyone, I am not a perfect person. If you can accept this, Tanguo, then please like me as much as you want. Don't be stingy. Tanguo, aren't you afraid of offending people by being so straightforward? The backstage host asked curiously. For example, Lu Qi? Lu Qi, do you mind how Tanguo treats you? How do you feel now? Backstage, the host's topic today was really interesting. In the past, whenever he saw Tanguo, she would sit silently at the side and not talk much. Unexpectedly, once she spoke, there was a lot of topics to talk about. If he had known earlier, he would definitely have found an opportunity to talk to Tanguo from the beginning. Tanguo smiled. If you're worried about offending people and go against your heart to like someone you don't like, wouldn't it be tiring to live? Host, did you hear anything from my voice? The host backstage was stunned for a moment. Then, he said, Tanguo, your voice is very tranquil. It makes people feel very peaceful. To be honest, after listening to your song, it's easy to disperse the tiredness of the day. The quality of sleep at night also becomes better. I'm a little curious. Why does your singing have such an effect? Because I'm living a very relaxed life now. I dare to do anything and say anything. Tanguo's lips curved slightly. You can feel this because I've conveyed my feelings to you through my voice. When a person has no worries and no pressure, naturally he'll feel relaxed and sleep better. Thus, he won't feel tired at all. The backstage host forgot about Lu Qi. He was completely surprised by Tanguo's answer. Chapter 24. Lu Qi almost gritted her teeth and said, Tanguo is such a straightforward person. Of course, I don't mind what she says. In fact, I'm liking her more and more. I don't know why she doesn't like me, but I don't mind. Lu Qi maintained a beautiful smile and still didn't let her image collapse. Now, she was afraid that Tanguo would continue to say, although you like me very much, I still don't like you. If that happened, she really wouldn't know what to say. The persona that she sold was to express her true temperament. No matter what she said, it wouldn't collapse. From the beginning, she had a perfect image. Now, Lu Qi was really in a dilemma. If she expressed a little bit of dissatisfaction with Tanguo in the future, today's perfect image would collapse in an instant. Thinking of what would happen at that time, Lu Qi's eyes turned black. The host backstage also felt that it was very boring to talk to Lu Qi. There was no topic at all, so he continued to talk to Tanguo. For a moment, Lu Qi was sitting on the cold bench. But now, she wanted to sit on the cold bench. She was afraid that the host backstage would ask some emotional questions and embarrass her. About an hour later, it was finally Lu Qi's turn to go on stage. Fortunately, after an hour, she had adjusted her mood. This time, she chose a lovelorn love song. It was still an English song. This song could not only express singing, but also fully express the feelings of a lost lover. Lu Qi's foundation was very good. Whether it was singing or expressing feelings, it was fascinating. The 5 judges and mentors listened and silently wiped their tears. In the end, the melody in the song reversed. It showed the state of mind of a lost lover slowly coming out of it, and it made the listeners calm down again. In short, this song completely made people recognize Lu Qi's excellence. The 5 judges and mentors raised their scoreboards one after another, 99, 98, 98, 99, 98. She sang very well. I fell in love with her at the beginning. The one who spoke was Chen Yun, a veteran singer with decent strength. The feelings she expressed reminded me of my first love when I was young. There were many beautiful memories that entered my mind in that instant, so I give her 99 points. The reason why I like her is that she dealt with her feelings in the end. It was a kind of relief, letting go of everything, Tonkin said. However, it's also because of this that I deducted 2 points. I keep feeling that there's something missing here. Of course, Lu Qi knew what was missing. Because in the last part, she couldn't express her relief at all. Previously, she was so angered by Tang Guo that it wasn't easy for her to adjust. If it weren't for the fact that she was mentally strong and had gone through a lot of training, she would definitely have collapsed this time. Fortunately, this score was already pretty good. She didn't think that Tang Guo's score was higher than hers. Moreover, Tong Kan and Chen Yun were people that Ziyu had found for her. They were definitely on her side. The last contestant on the stage was Tang Guo. Tang Guo left a deep impression on everyone. She was sweet, pure, and like a little angel, an angel who could make people feel that the world was quiet. Therefore, when Tang Guo came on stage in a black dress, her body showed a kind of heavy, dark, and oppressive feeling. Both the audience and the judges on the stage were stunned. Chapter 25. With just one look, Tang Guo's performance made everyone's heart ache. Yes, it was heartache. They didn't know what had hurt her and made her fall into the abyss. Seeing her in such a dark and depraved state, countless people felt heartache and sadness. The scene was very quiet and no one talked about it. The people waiting backstage were also shocked by Tang Guo, especially Leng Ziyue. In a trance, he felt that the person who made Tang Guo fall into darkness was him. Yes, it was him. It was all his fault that caused her to become like this. Leng Ziyue covered his face with both hands and the corners of his eyes were a little wet. Ziyue, what's wrong? Lu Qi didn't fall into it. Looking at Leng Ziyue, she couldn't help but worry. Are you not feeling well? Leng Ziyue let go of his hands and wiped the corners of his eyes. He smiled bitterly. Qi, do you think I was wrong to treat her like that? Should I not have provoked her in the first place? It was Tang Guo again. Lu Qi felt stifled. As a woman, she knew very well that Leng Ziyue probably had Tang Guo in his heart now. However, Leng Ziyue didn't know that and only thought that it was guilt. She found it funny. She was just a substitute, and her substitute at that. Why did Leng Ziyue care so much about her? No, Leng Ziyue could only be hers now. She definitely wouldn't let Tang Guo have her way and take Leng Ziyue away. Ziyue, I'm not feeling well. Can you accompany me for a walk? Lu Qi didn't look well and Leng Ziyue woke up immediately. Do you want to go to the hospital? Seeing Leng Ziyue's anxious face, Lu Qi heaved a sigh of relief. Even if Tang Guo had a certain place in Ziyue's heart, it definitely couldn't compare to her. No need. I just felt a little depressed just now and wanted to go for a walk. She definitely couldn't let Leng Ziyue focus too much on Tang Guo. Even the host backstage didn't notice Leng Ziyue and Lu Qi's departure. Now, like everyone else, he was mesmerized by Tang Guo's performance on stage. Almost no one present had ever seen a singer who could draw people into her world just by standing there when she went on stage to sing. However, Tang Guo did it. When the dark music started playing, everyone felt as if they had fallen into the abyss of depravity, a world filled with pain. Every single one of their faces showed signs of struggle and sadness. The cameraman tried his best to control himself. He even used earplugs and put on glasses to prevent himself from being sucked in. He wiped off the cold sweat on his forehead. The woman in the black dress on the stage was shocked. A fierce voice sounded in his heart. She will definitely be famous. Definitely. This woman would be known by many people in the future. Not only was the music dark, but the lyrics were also dark. The melody was also full of depression, making it hard for people to breathe. This was a song they had never heard before. Even though it was extremely uncomfortable to listen to, they still had no choice but to listen to it. They even wished they could get closer to her so that they could hear it more clearly. They couldn't stop themselves from falling into depravity. If it was the woman in the black dress who led them into depravity, then they would be willing to do so. When the depression and pain in everyone's heart reached its peak, even they themselves felt that they would fall into depravity forever and die in the next moment. The lights on the stage suddenly dimmed. The surroundings became dark. Almost everyone's heart was at a loss, as if they had lost all their sense of direction. Chapter 26. The woman in the black dress raised her head gently. As the lights increased, the color of her black dress gradually changed. From black to white, it only took a few seconds. Her originally painful and evil face suddenly revealed a sweet smile. She was still as pure as an angel. Her smile seemed to wash away all their darkness. She opened her mouth slightly and sang the lyrics. It was beautiful, gentle, and purified the whole world. Everyone's oppression just now was gone. The abyss they were in seemed to be an illusion. She didn't come to take them to hell, but to bring them from hell to heaven. When the last melody fell, everyone present slowly closed their eyes. Even the cameraman couldn't control his emotions at this time. He closed his eyes as well, but his hands were still moving instinctively. A minute passed. No one opened their eyes. 3 minutes passed. No one opened their eyes. 5 minutes passed. Everyone, are you planning to sleep here? The woman's voice sounded. Are you tired from working too hard? Everyone opened their eyes and looked up at the woman standing on the stage with a sweet smile. They just stared blankly, unable to say a word. They only listened to one song, but it was as if they had experienced a grand concert. Such a soul-stirring scene. If this woman really held a concert, they didn't know what kind of shocking scene it would create. What's the name of this song? Tonkan asked excitedly. He was a veteran singer and knew many lyricists and composers. Most of them were famous, but he had never heard of anyone who could compose such a song and write such lyrics. If there was, he had to know this person. Fallen World, Tangwa replied. Chen Yun didn't understand. Why is it called the Fallen World and not the light after the fall? The others were also a little confused. Yes, this was clearly a song that told the story of an angel who had fallen and walked back to the light. Hearing Tangwa's words, it didn't even walk out of the fall. Why was it called the Fallen World? Facing everyone who wanted Tangwa to give an explanation, she chose to satisfy them. Then let's give an example. There was a merciful master who couldn't bear to step on an ant. When he saw the world in chaos, countless people were invaded by enemy countries and lost their homes and lives. The great master couldn't bear it. He broke his vows and left the temple. He chose to become a soldier and went into battle to kill the enemy. When millions of corpses fell, the common people welcomed the light, but he was still in the fallen world, atoning for the blood on his hands. Because he is a monk, if he breaks the precepts, he will fall forever. Chen Yun could not help but say, and what we see is our own light. Tangwa nodded. You can understand it that way. Who composed this song? Tongkan was more concerned about this. Tangwa stopped smiling and said in a faint voice, that master. Everyone thought that Tangwa was joking. Maybe she didn't want to tell them, so they didn't ask. Although Tongkan was unwilling, he did not make things difficult for Tangwa. The 5 judges looked at each other and raised their scoreboards at the same time. 100100100100100. It was an expected result. Tangwa appeared very calm, but the others were not. Chapter 27. Chen Yun was still in a dilemma as to how many points she should give to Tangwa. After all, that person had told her not to let Tangwa lose to Lu Qi. Compared to Lung Rui and Lung Ziyue, she obviously chose to listen to Lung Rui. Lung Ziyue only managed Star Cloud Productions, while Lung Rui could have many Star Cloud Productions. Now, she was not in a dilemma at all. Tang Guo's ability was much stronger than Lu Qi's. Giving her a full score was just going with the flow. The big boss was indeed different. Even the people he chose were so capable. In her opinion, it would be a problem if Tang Guo was not popular. Because I think I'll get first place. I'm already excited. This answer made everyone a little dumbfounded. She was really honest. If it were not for her ability, people would definitely say that there was an inside story. Although there was an inside story, with Tang Guo's ability, there was no need to mention it. When this episode was broadcast, the audience would definitely not question anything. Lu Qi came back from a walk and got this result. Seeing the rows of full scores, her blood rushed to her heart. Her vision turned black and she fainted. There were many people around her waiting for the results. There were even a few reporters. Several reporters saw this scene and several topics changed in their minds. They secretly took photos of Lu Qi fainting. Lung Ziyue noticed and helped Lu Qi to the side to rest. Then, he walked to the reporters and looked at them coldly. The reporters were scared. "Young Master Leng, what's the matter? You should know what to write and what not to write." Lung Ziyue frowned. Chi is not feeling well today. It's already hard for her to participate in the competition while sick. "I hope you won't report it." The reporters looked at each other. They did not have any background. With Lung Ziyue's warning, they did not dare to report it. "Young Master Leng, don't worry. We won't report it. These photos were taken randomly. I'll delete them immediately." Although he said that, he was actually very dissatisfied with Lu Qi. Why did she get full scores? The first thing Lu Qi did when she woke up was to grab Lung Ziyue. "How can there be full scores? Ziyu, didn't you say that Tong Kan and Chen Yun were both people you invited?" Lu Qi had doubts in her heart. Could it be that someone warned them? Is he the man who kept Tang Guo as his mistress? Lung Ziyue didn't say anything. He thought Lu Qi's words made sense. If his father made a move, Chen Yun and Tong Kan would definitely listen to his father and not him. "Chichi, it doesn't matter if you lose. You have the strength, and you have a lot of plans for the future. Don't let this matter affect your future performance." Lung Ziyue carefully hugged Lu Qi. When you leave a deep impression in the eyes of the audience, you can release some songs. Finally, you can hold a concert. That will be a matter of course. Lu Qi was not reconciled. "I'm clearly not worse than Tang Guo, but I lost because of this. Ziyue, I'm really not reconciled. Ziyue, do you think it was a mistake for me to come back? It was because I couldn't bear to part with you that you left the Tang Guo. Now, she's unwilling to give up and wants to use this method to take revenge on me. Ziyu, she just took my first place today. What about in the future? Do you think she'll let me go? She just wants to take you away from me." Chapter 28. Tang Guo, you won't be able to stay in the first place for long. Lu Qi found Tang Guo and said, "I know you're upset because Ziyu chose me in the end, so you want to take revenge. But I'm telling you, I won't back down and I won't give Ziyu to you." Lu Qi said righteously, "You don't deserve to be by Ziyu's side. He chose me because he likes me. Tang Guo, one day, everyone will know your true colors. Even if the person behind you has a powerful background, he won't support you forever. I advise you to behave yourself and don't do anything overboard to provoke me because of Ziyu. I've let you go time and time again because Ziyu once owed you. If you really piss me off, don't blame me for being rude. Let me give you one last piece of advice. Ziyu is mine, don't even think about it." After Lu Qi finished her long speech, she valiantly walked away, leaving no chance for Tang Guo to speak. She touched her chin and said, "Idiot, do you think the female lead has broken down? It's all because of you. Host, take it easy. This is a peaceful world. Can't you just live a good life?" Tang Guo said, "I'm living a good life. I didn't provoke her. She came looking for me. You have to be reasonable. I didn't hurt her first. Yes, you didn't provoke her, But you stole the first place of moving voice. If it weren't for you, she would be very popular now. The system's voice was full of resentment. Host, you've destroyed her first resource and caused her to not be as outstanding as she was described in the plot. Even her personality is a bit broken. She didn't get the first place because she wasn't good enough. She wanted to do something behind the scenes. I just ruined her plan and fought for a fair chance for this platform. I beat her because of my ability. Do you admit that I'm better than her? System, admit it. Then it's fine. I can't give in to her just because she's the female lead, right? I have a clear conscience. After all, I also want to live well. Tangwa frowned. Judging from your tone, you want me to cause trouble instead of living a good life. The system panicked. No, definitely not. Really. Host, you just have to live well. Don't cause any trouble. If you want to sing and be a singer, go ahead. You're very outstanding. According to the plot, Lu Qi would participate in a variety show after a while. The host only wants to sing now, which is a good thing. Without the presence of Tangguo in the variety show, Lu Qi will shine and attract a large number of fans with her strength. Yes, that's it. The system secretly laughed. Why didn't it occur to him before? As long as the host stayed away from the female lead, Lu Qi would not be affected. Even without Tangguo as a supporting character, there were still other supporting characters who would make things difficult for Lu Qi. Lu Qi couldn't deal with the host, but it would be easy for her to deal with a few other small characters. Tangguo returned to the villa and saw a pile of luggage at the door. There was not much luggage, only 2 or 3 boxes. While she was still in doubt, a servant came up to her. Chapter 29. Host, look, this is the fate of the female supporting lead. The system said sarcastically, your sugar daddy has chased you out. I told you from the start not to provoke him. Look, he chased you out without a word. Your plan is ruined. In any case, the system heaved a sigh of relief. Without Leng Rui and Tang Guo, Lu Qi would be less hindered. Tang Guo lazily leaned on the sofa and put the grapes into her mouth one by one, as if nothing had happened. Host, we've been through so many worlds together. Why do I feel like I don't understand you at all? The system was silent for a long time. It could not see any disappointment or sadness on Tang Guo's face. Finally, it could not help but ask. Host, can you tell me when you started to break down? Host, don't you think you have an anti-human personality? No, according to what you did in the previous worlds, you have an antisocial and anti-human personality. Idiot. The system. Then, he heard Tangguo laugh softly. Leng Rui will miss me. Host, can you be more shameless? Don't you know that man? He doesn't like women. He only likes to listen to music. There are countless women who live in that villa every year. At most, they stay for more than a month. You, on the other hand, are not Leng Rui's exception. Tangguo ignored the system and called Yu. Record songs? Yu was surprised. Ancestor, what are you going to do? I'm going to record a few of my own songs and upload them to the most popular singing app now. Let people know about my songs first. Once the show is broadcast, I don't need to promote it myself. The fans on the app will promote it for me. Tangguo explained. Sister Yu, you can help me with some troublesome matters. Yu thought about it. This was a good idea. Then, whose songs do you want to record? I said it's mine. Yu was stunned. Your own? Yes, the lyrics were written by me, but the songs were written by someone else. I'll mark them when the time comes. Don't worry, I'll only record 5 songs. If you're worried, you can listen to it first. Yu was very relieved. Ever since she heard Tangguo's song in the finals, she knew that Tangguo would definitely become popular. Even though Leng Rui had asked Tangguo to move out of the villa, Yu was not worried. After all, Tangguo still had a contract with Nebula Music, which guaranteed her resources for 3 years. As long as Tangguo didn't do anything stupid, she would definitely become popular in 3 years. Okay, then let's record it. This time, you have to publicize it on Weibo and attract more fans. Xiao Guo, you have the ability. Don't court death. Tangwa smiled. I will. Hence, for the next few days, Tangwa was busy recording songs. As for Lu Qi, she had already joined the variety show team and started the recording of the reality show. When the recording of the reality show was almost done and the first episode was broadcast, the 5 songs recorded by Tangwa had already become popular on a certain singing app. Tangwa's fans on Weibo and the app's account had increased by quite a lot. Because of the reality show, Lu Qi attracted a large number of fans. Coincidentally, at this time, the final episode of Moving Voice was broadcast. Because of Lu Qi's performance, everyone was excited and she gained a large number of fans. Chapter 30. Seeing this result, Lu Qi heaved a sigh of relief. After she finished singing and received good reviews from the judges, a series of comments appeared on the screen saying, "Rubbish show, inside story," and "Tangwa, get off the stage." Lu Qi laughed out loud. Although there were still many people who spoke up for Tangwa, they were drowned out by the scolding. However, the moment Tangwa walked onto the stage, the barrage of comments disappeared completely. Even through the screen, people could feel the world that belonged to Tangwa. Those who had scolded Tangwa earlier were also attracted. They felt the same as those who had experienced it that day. They felt that their words were too vicious. Was it because they had scolded Tangwa that she had fallen into the abyss? Were they the ones who had caused all these sins? As the song started, many people looked at the image on the screen and showed a painful struggle. They felt guilty and some even shed tears of regret. When Tangwa was finally illuminated by the white lights, she regained her angelic appearance. The sins in their hearts seemed to have been washed away by her sweet smile. At that moment, those who were watching the show were shocked. At the same time, they were deeply attracted to Tangwa. They even liked her. Wow, isn't this Gua from some singing app? Yeah, I thought she looked familiar from the start. Her style was also very familiar. So it really is her. Gua is definitely first place. Who can compare to her? Are those who scolded Gua retarded? With the promotion of the fans on the screen, people quickly found out who Gua was. Then, they realized that the song that had been heard everywhere recently was actually Tangwa's. After discovering this, those who had scolded Tangwa before were a little embarrassed. Lu Qi stared at the screen in disbelief. Then, she downloaded the app and saw that Tangwa's fans had reached 1 million and that her 5 songs were all recommended on the homepage. Lu Qi felt that something was wrong. Then, after listening to 5 songs, her face turned even paler. Recently, their show had even bought 2 of the songs to be used as background music for the show. Moreover, the director of the program even said that her singing was not bad and asked her to sing these 2 songs live. Previously, she was still feeling complacent, but now, Lu Qi almost ground her teeth to pieces. Then, she looked at the composer and lyricist. The composer was an unfamiliar name that she had never heard of, and the lyricist was Tangwa. She actually sang Tangwa's song. Lu Qi clenched her fists tightly. When the program was broadcast, she didn't know what would happen. She didn't know how many people would laugh at her. Lu Qi hurriedly called the director of the program and asked if the singing scene could be cut. Cut it. Lu Qi, I think this is a good shot. There's no need to cut it. Director, is it really impossible? There was still no answer. Lu Qi was in despair. In the end, she thought of Lung Ziyue and immediately called him. Chichi, the director agreed. Lu Qi breathed a sigh of relief. That's good. Little did she know that although the director had agreed, she had also offended him. Now, all she was thinking about was to not make a fool of herself. She didn't think so much. Because of the finals, Tangwa's song and the 5 songs on a certain singing app, Tangwa became popular. Chapter 31. I like how honest our Gua is. Gua is right. If you don't like someone, why do you have to go against your conscience and say that you like him? If it's just to maintain a beautiful image, I don't think it's necessary. After all, just like Gua said, we are not perfect. Isn't it normal to have flaws? No matter what, I like this Gua. I'm fascinated by her. Her singing is so beautiful. Every time I listen to her, she can bring me to that mysterious world. Her personality is also what I like. The internet was filled with praises for Tang Guo, even though she did not have much exposure apart from her appearance on the talent show, Moving Voice. But because of her own talent and the influence of her 5 songs, Moving Voice was enough to make her more popular than anyone else. Even Lu Qi, whose popularity had increased because of her participation in the reality show, could not compare to the current Tang Guo. Lu Qi was selling her image in the reality show. Tang Guo did not participate in any reality show. Every time she appeared, the impression she gave was that she was a singer. The first impression she gave was her voice, followed by her person. Once people got to know her better, they would naturally like her songs even more. Ancestor, you are famous. Yu Yu excitedly gave Tang Guo a phone call. Ancestor, did you know that my phone has been ringing non-stop since yesterday? Yu Yu flipped through the various appointments in her hands and was extremely excited. She knew that even though Tang Guo had moved out of Lung Rui's villa, she would still be famous. As long as she did not court death, she would definitely become famous. After Yu Yu calmed down, she immediately asked Tang Guo about her plans. At the moment, she had countless resources in her hands. Since Tang Guo was so popular, everyone could see her value. She did not need to use any tricks to obtain all kinds of resources. Yu Yu wanted to take advantage of this time to participate in some shows that would leave a deep impression on the audience and maintain Tang Guo's current popularity. The first to bear the brunt were a few reality shows. Yu Yu had originally thought that Tang Guo would have no objections. However, Tang Guo did not even think about it. I will not participate in the reality show. Why? Yu Yu couldn't understand. This was a good opportunity. Compared to a week ago, Tang Guo's value had increased several times. She would never be wrong. As long as she participated in the reality show, Tang Guo would become even more popular. Boring. Yu Yu thought she had heard wrong when she heard that light sentence from the phone. Not interesting at all? Did he just dismiss her by saying that she was bored? Just as Yu Yu was about to lose her temper, Tang Guo's voice sounded again. I already have a plan. What plans? Yu Yu calmed down and asked. It was Tang Guo's idea that made her so popular last time, so Yu Yu thought that Tang Guo was not only capable, but also smart. Record a song. Release a record. I'm very busy. Reality shows waste a lot of time. After all, I'm going to be famous all over the world. There's no need to waste time on that kind of show. It's meaningless. Yu Yu was speechless. Yu Yu's eyelids twitched fiercely. She took a deep breath and said, Ancestor, if you want to release a record, you need help. Do you think it's that simple? Human resources, material resources, financial resources. None of them can be lacking. Do you have anyone? Do you have money? Chapter 32. Yu Yu rushed into Tang Guo's villa. When she entered, she saw Tang Guo lying lazily on the sofa, playing with her phone while eating ice cream. Ice cream. Yu Yu walked over and took away Tang Guo's ice cream. Aren't you afraid of getting fat after eating so much? Tang Guo was not angry. She raised her head slightly and said, Sister Yu, sit down. Yu Yu threw the ice cream into the trash can and sat down angrily. She finally understood Tang Guo. She was a person who was not afraid of anything, as if she did not care about anything. All in all, she was a heartless person. Although her goal was to become popular all over the world, she had never seen much ambition in Tang Guo's eyes. Instead, she could tell that this goal of becoming popular all over the world was just her boring pastime and finding something to do. Xiao Guo. Although Mr. Lung thinks highly of you and even let you stay in the villa for half a month, you have already moved out of the villa. There is no chance for you to move back. You'd better not provoke Mr. Lung. You can't afford to offend him. Any woman who plays tricks in front of him will not have a good ending. He is different from other men. He never knows what it means to have tender feelings for women. He will beat and kill any woman he likes. Yu Yu's eyes flashed with deep fear. Although some of the things were just hearsay, they were all true. Tang Guo smiled with her eyes slightly closed, as if she did not hear Yu Yu's words. But the corners of her mouth were slightly upturned, and the smile on her face did not seem so friendly. Seeing this smile, the system shuddered deeply. Host, calm down. Please dispel the bad thoughts in your mind. Don't do anything to hurt or break up the marriage between the male and female leads. Host, I know that in the previous worlds, the supporting female leads you took over did have a miserable ending, causing you to be seriously hurt physically and mentally. But you can't bring this to the next world, right? Who told you that I want to hurt the male and female leads? That I want to break up their relationship? The system said weakly. If not, why are you showing such a scary smile? Is it scary? Tangwa blinked innocently. Isn't it sweet? Everyone says that I'm a little angel, a pure angel in their hearts, an angel that can cleanse their hearts. System, that's because they're blind. Sister Yu, I need invitations to high-level banquets. My only request is that Lung Rui must be present at these banquets. If you think you can't do it, then I'll go on a trip. Yu Yu's eyelids twitched. She saw Tangwa take out her phone and open the travel app, as if she was going to choose where to go. He immediately agreed. Lung Ziue had not returned to the villa recently. Firstly, he was afraid that if he went back, he would face his father hugging his ex-girlfriend and doing something indescribable. If he bumped into him, it would make him feel awkward and stifled. Secondly, Lu Qi's condition was not very good recently. Tang Guo was in the limelight, causing Lu Qi's popularity to drop. Some people even thought that Lu Qi's persona was too perfect. They thought that she was faking it and suspected that she was different on the inside. What bothered Lu Qi the most was that her fans liked to compare her with Tang Guo. They said that she was a singer, so why did she go on reality shows instead of singing? Look at Tang Guo. She was already popular with her songs, but she was still selling her persona and beauty. After hearing these words, Lu Qi was so angry that she almost fainted. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.